friendship that'll never ever end.
Run!
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Reaction Beanie Yo 344. That in that neighborhood, my brothers and sisters. We'll gather here on another Tuesday to get into another one of these true crime, horror, dark, deep, and mysterious what the is going on type of videos. And since I said it's Tuesday, y'all know who we about to go back to. Mike from that chapter. That chapter Tuesdays, y'all. Hope y'all doing excelente out there today. And I'm glad that you came on back to the channel once again to fuck with the bean. Now, the title of this video, how missing girls led to disturbed janitor stalking a theater. I don't even know how this led to this. I hope these missing girls, you know what I'm saying, was found alive. I hope the janitor ain't killed them and then they found out about even more evil shit that he got going on. You know what I'm saying? Like this one might be a little deep, y'all. This one might go a little deep. This janitor might got some craziness going on. But we finna see. But before we see, y'all know what y'all got to do. Get whatever you might need. Get what you need. That Chapter Tuesdays. Once again, my friends. Y'all got what y'all need. Y'all ready to go? Then let's fucking go.
Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and this old video takes us to a valley with a very strange and mysterious past. Not to mention present. Over a 3-year period in this valley, there were a cluster of unsolved murders which still puzzle to this day. This case is absolutely terrifying and mind-boggling, and there are some suspects, but one I think we should get into in particular, because it's been rumored, hinted at, that he may be linked to probably the most famous unsolved serial killer of the last century. So, let's give it a go.
Let's give it a go. And get whatever you might need.
The Lewis-Clark Valley region is an area between the states of Washington and Idaho. Separated by the Great Snake River, you have Lewiston in Idaho and Clarkston and Minnesota across the river in Washington. These three cities make up like the metro area, and it's, the epitome of successful, beautiful American dream in the Pacific Northwest. It's exactly the kind of place where people hope to, raise their families and watch their children grow. Crime is as low as the unemployment rate, and neighbors know each other's names quite well. It's all very white picket fenced, and once the sun goes down low, it gets, quiet. Dead quiet. Our mysterious cases, today, they span several crimes going from 1979 to 1982. On April 28, 1979, 12-year-old outdoorsy tomboy Chrissy White, had gone to watch the parade that marked the arrival of the Stalking County Fair, and it was going to be another beautiful day. After school, young Chrissy had made plans to go to a friend's house and help prepare her horses for the Stalking County Fair. But while she was there at her friend's house, she called her mother Betty, saying that she just wasn't feeling very well at all. See, the previous day, young Chrissy had suffered from heat stroke, and it was still feeling like the after effects of it. Her mother, Betty, didn't have ready access to a car, and she also had another small child at home, so she told Chrissy, just go lie down, put a wet cloth over yourself, hydrate, rest up, and then come on home when you're feeling a little bit better that evening, or whatever. The friend's house was only 7 blocks away from her own house, so Betty wasn't worrying too much. The day went on, slowly turned to evening, to dusk, and Chrissy never came home. Now, her mother, Betty, simply thought that, Chrissy must have just felt better, and she went to the fair after all. She, Chrissy had her bike to ride home, and like Asotin it's not the kind of place where kids get snatched off the streets. But then the minutes rolled into hours, and a mother's mild worry turned into full-on panic. She was looking at the window every 5 minutes. Then that turned into opening the door and sticking the head outside. Then that turned into walking the streets, calling her name to silence. It was like, Betty went around, she called up the friend's house, she called on the neighbors, she knocked around, but it was like Chrissy had ceased to exist. No one could find Chrissy. Somewhere in the 7 blocks between her friend's house and her own home, Chrissy had vanished. Despite a reward offered for information leading to her recovery and a long intensive search by sheriff's deputies, Chrissy has never been found.
Wow.
Even her distinctive white 10-speed Schwinn bicycle was never discovered. Her father even took to the skies when another local man offered him, the use of his helicopter. They were in whirlybirds going around the whole area seeing if they could find the bike, from the sky. And they could not. The bike was never found. In fact, no one even was able to come forward saying they had seen her during that short, couple of minutes bike ride home at all. Weeks after Chrissy vanished, pieces of her schoolwork were found in a farm just outside of town. There was a load of pages there just laying in a field, and the police thought that they had been placed there deliberately. They'd been torn out of her book and then deliberately placed there, not like they were just thrown out a window or anything like that. The police seemed to think that this was a taunt, that whoever did this was, look what I got. Whether...
Exactly. This the type of killer it sounds like we're dealing with, y'all. One of them ones where they want to taunt to the police and to the public. Hey, I'm just like, y'all know the Zodiac killer. Like, hey, I'm gonna leave these little clues here and there. Catch me if you can. That's what it sounds like we got on our hands. But whoever this is, they pretty experienced, I guess you want to say, or you know what I'm saying. They good at what they know what they doing, because this damn girl just vanished completely, and not only her bike too, like just gone. Left no trace other than the trace that he just left behind by putting these pieces of her book out on the land. But it looked like we got a Zodiac type killer on our hands.
Whether or not that's true, the case soon stalled, gradually getting colder and colder. Then, on June 26, 1981, 22-year-old journalism student Kirsten David was dropped off in Moscow town by a friend. Moscow town, by the way, pretty well known, I think at this point, from what happened there a few months ago with those horrific murders. So, this area, busy. Kirsten was expected to ride the 32 miles back on her blue 10-speed bicycle to Lewiston to meet another friend. This was at around 5 p.m., but she never showed.
Okay, there go the pattern too, y'all. Both of these girls who went missing was doing what? Riding a bike. You know what I'm saying? So that's a pattern that kind of lets you know that whoever Christian, whoever took her, took this lady too. But let's go.
She never showed up to meet her friend in town. Kirsten now loved her bike. She was mad to get on the old pedaling. She'd just repainted it. She was excited to go for this bike ride from Moscow to Lewiston. And somewhere along that route, she just vanished. She was last seen coming down a hill on the way into Lewiston, so she almost made it. And that was it. A witness came forward in the immediate aftermath of Kirsten's disappearance and told police that he had seen a man on his own driving a brown Ford van. This guy had pulled over and was talking to a woman on a bicycle. The woman's description matched Kirsten's. Then on the 4th of July 1981, her family received the worst news possible. After an 8-day search for Kirsten David, fishermen out on the Snake River had found a body. It was Kirsten. Her body was found dismembered and wrapped in black plastic bags. It took the police multiple days to clear the river of the plastic bags. There were so many. The delay in recovering the various parts and pieces only led to a sense of fear that was already spreading in the small community. And that then soon blew out of all control. No one knew who had committed this horrendous crime, and no one felt safe. This was a young student who had been butchered and then dumped in Snake River. Now, at the time, nobody connected Kristen's murder to Chrissy's disappearance at all. Sadly, as is so often the case, it would take another crime, an even more horrendous crime, for links to begin to spiderweb out, and you begin to think that these cases are all connected. I mean, there was some similarities between Kristen and Chrissy. Their names are kind of similar, but I mean, the killer probably didn't know that. They were both taken while on bicycles. That was kind of it. Neither bike is ever...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. I mean, yeah, it's not a big, you know what I'm saying, thing to tie both of the cases together, but it's something to go off of. You know what I'm saying? Just the fact they both were taken while they was on bicycles. What would at least lead you to believe that maybe there's somebody who riding around in their car or whatever, looking for young women or little girls on their bikes and abducted them. It at least give you that much to go off of. But I don't know.
Ever been found. It was far from obvious that these cases were related until this. And before we continue, let me just mention that this whole video is
Here come Mike with a commercial. But yeah, y'all, it's like, it ain't a lot of evidence to go off of, but it's a little, man. But I'm pretty sure we finna hear a lot more. And y'all fuck with Mike from that chapter, Dream. You know, you cold chapter on that thing, you get 35% off the order. You know, and let's go.
On Sunday, September 12th, 1982, what has become known as the Lewiston Civic Theater incident took place. You know that anytime you hear the something incident, you know shit's gonna get wild. In this one, they just got more terrifying because what exactly happened, we don't know, but something horrendous did.
Uh-oh.
The Lewiston Civic Theater sits in a quieter part of town. As soon as you're off the main street, very few streetlights, almost an eerie silence. Reading about what some people were saying about the area, creepy was the word that came up again and again. Maybe we can find out why. Jacqueline Miller, known as Brandy, and Christina Nelson, known as Christy, were as much friends as they were step-siblings. 21-year-old Christy was a cheerleader in high school, very artistic, loved to paint and adored animals. She had all the choices of the world, but was planning on becoming a vet. She loved just animals, feathers and fur. She was attending Lewis Clark State College and was working part-time at a drive-in. Brandy was 18 years old, known as very outgoing, very friendly, like ready to help anybody at the drop of a hat. The girls got on like a house on fire, better than most actual sisters ever would, and often just enjoyed hanging out and going around town together. Christy, being a little bit older, and in college she had her own apartment, Brandy would often go over, spend the night, sleep together. They were last seen on September 12th, 82, walking down the road, just going to a grocery store. And then they were never seen again. Now, when the first reports came out that Christy and Brandy were missing, the police didn't exactly, whoa, jump out of their seats. I mean, the first thing was like, college girls, they'd have gone off with some boys, they'll turn up eventually. Our community is so safe, bad things don't happen here at all. That's for big city folk, not for us.
Yeah, okay.
They didn't really kind of start looking taking this very seriously at all, despite them missing their obligations, class, school, not contacting their parents, any of the usual sort of thing. When they did get their ass into gear, the investigators began searching the routes between both their homes, between the grocery store, all around town, multiple times. They had just completely vanished, and they were expecting to come back. Christina had left a note on her door of her apartment for her boyfriend, who they were expecting to arrive while they were out for grocery shopping. She left a note saying, "Just gone to the grocery store, be back in a few minutes, wait for us." He was waiting for a while. So whether or not they actually got to the grocery store is undetermined. The grocery store in the apartment wasn't far, so they were able to search that pretty easy and found nothing. Then they began to think, you know what? Lewiston Civic Theater is like right there along the route, and they would hang out there all the time. Christina used to work there, and so they would just go there, chill. It was like their just hangout spot in the town. So all eyes then began to point at the Civic Theater. Did they pop in there, and did something happen in there? That meant that suspicion first fell on a 35-year-old man named Stephen Pearsall. Stephen, who had recently left the military, just so happened to work at the theater and was very close with both girls. By all accounts, Stephen was like a big brother to both of them. And what's more, we know Stephen was working in the Lewiston Civic Theater that night. A patrol officer had seen him using one of the side entrances to get in there. See, Stephen worked there part-time as a set decorator and also as the janitor of the theater, which, funnily enough, was Kristen's old job. Stephen's girlfriend also confirmed that she had last seen Stephen when she dropped him off at the theater that evening just before midnight after a party. She told investigators Stephen had asked to be dropped off there, he wanted to practice his clarinet. Is that this? And then he had some work that he just needed to finish up. All initial reports when the girls, Brandy and Christy, disappeared, it all seemed to like point at Stephen. Police wanted to speak with him. They just couldn't find him. He too had disappeared. Now the police never, like initially they oh, he took them, he ran away. No, he was a missing person too. He had left his clarinet in the Civic Theatre after he'd been dropped off there. And he would take that anywhere he would go. Back at his house, he had left his wallet there, an uncashed check. So it didn't seem like his disappearance was voluntary. What we know is that he walked in and he just disappeared. There was a black hole inside the theatre, and we presume Brandy and Christy both walked in there too. They also got sucked in somewhere.
Plot fucking twist, y'all. I just knew he was the one who had abducted them two girls, but come to find out, it sounded like somebody was in that damn theater that abducted all three of them. Maybe at the same time, different times, I don't know. But, that just made this a lot more crazier. Who in the hell is this mysterious person? And is he tied to the other two murders? Or the other two missing girls?
Then the grim and grisly discovery of both Brandy and Christy's bodies. That was 18 months later.
Damn.
On March 19th, 1982. The girls' decomposed remains were found 2.5 miles north of Kendrick, Idaho, down a steep embankment off a highway by a teenager. The young fellow was out there looking for cans to, trade in, get a couple of cents, whatever, make some money. He found a skull, was like, cool, thought it was a deer skull. It was not a deer skull. The authorities then arrived and they found two intact skeletons, and it had been so much time it was impossible to tell, what could have happened to them. But they were so near the road, it seemed like, their bodies had been thrown out of a car down the hill. Investigators have never released exactly how the girls died, but the pathologist who examined their remains did say there was evidence of trauma. And of Stephen, who was working that night, who was there that night, disappeared. No trace has ever been found of Stephen Pearsall. Whether he was involved with what happened to them, we may never know. Someone probably does, because there was one other person in the theatre that night. That's 5 victims in 3 years. Christina White in 1979, Kristen David in 1981, and Christina Nelson, Brandy Miller, and Stephen Pearsall in 1982. To date, there have been 0 arrests made in any of these cases, but that doesn't mean there's no suspects or know nothing about what happened. Notorious dickheads Henry Lee Lucas and his weirdo partner in crime, Otis Toole, both separately confessed to being behind all 5 of the murders. But like with pretty much all their confessions, it didn't take long to say, you're like full of shit. And then, so just stop talking, we don't care. They were not behind it, it's believed. So now is the part where I just have to give you...
Why do these fucking crazy people always be coming out? Like, we done heard it plenty of times on these videos, my brothers and sisters. Where be people who come out saying, yeah, I'm the one who did it. I killed him. Yeah, I did the murder. And come to find out, you just fucking lying, bro. You just nothing that tie you to this shit. Like, why? What make people want to be... You proud to say that you killed some people even though that you lying about killing them? Like, that shit just weird to me, man. But I guess life just weird. Hell, you know what I'm saying? But I don't get it. But who in the hell did this?
Do a little disclaimer, because the main person of interest, and this is where you're going to get to see the spiderwebs, folks, he's never been publicly named by the authorities. Even though they've admitted he is who they think is responsible for this, they just don't have enough to put him away. His name, you can find it, it's kind of everywhere. But I probably just, for myself, probably just shouldn't say it. I'll say his name is Vance Loss. There are plenty of people who don't have the same qualms I do, including family members of the victims who were pretty much outright pointing at him saying, he did it. And there's actually some documentaries where they're very happy to give this guy the L finger. As I said, Stephen Pearsall wasn't the only other person in the Civic Theatre that night when it's believed Brandy and Christy walked in. There was another set decorator that night there too. So you might just be thinking, whoa, Mike, what's this got to do with the other cases? You know? Well, I hear you're barking, big dog. Remember Chrissy White, the first person who disappeared? She was at her friend's house, and that's the last place we know she was. Well, that friend of Christina's, her mother just so happened to have a boyfriend, Vance Loss. And Vance just so happened to be over at the house that day. He volunteered to police. He was the one who gave young Chrissy a wet cloth when she said she was suffering from heat stroke the day she vanished. He was at the house. Christina White's mother, Betty, vividly recalls the suspect being incredibly over-interested and over-keen, peachy keen, on being involved in the search for her daughter, which is something we see again and again and again of guilty people involving themselves in the investigation. Guess what? Vance Loss also worked in the Lewiston Civic Theatre the same night, and he was there. We know for sure he was there. He's even readily admitted he was there that night when Brandy, Christy, and Stephen vanished.
Okay, so this man has admitted to being there the day that all these people had vanished. I mean, let me calm down. Vanished. He admitted to being there at the house with little Chrissy. You know what I'm saying? Before she turned up missing. He admitted to being there with these 3 people that turned up missing. Like, bro, come on, man. What they say, if it walk like a duck and quack like a duck, it's a fucking duck.
Then there's 22-year-old Kristen David. Well, our same person of interest, Vance Loss, drove that route between Moscow and Lewiston. The same route Kristen would have been cycling on that day. He was known to be living in Lewiston at the time. Completing the whole kind of circle, the old weirdo circle of the whole what the shitness is going on. Guess what? Kristen David also worked in that same civic theatre. So maybe she was cycling home, a guy who she used to work with pulled over, they began talking, next thing you know she's gone.
Yep.
Now, in an interview about what had happened at the Lewiston Civic Theatre the night the 3 people disappeared, he said he had been there. I was there, but he'd hurt his back. So he had gone down for a little rest, a little nap, and he'd fallen asleep. And that was it. Slept through, didn't hear, see nothing. So he'd been asleep at the, maybe, crime scene. Contemporary investigations of the theatre have led investigators to believe it is a crime scene, but it's a theatre, right? There's been hundreds, thousands of people coming and going through it at all times. It's impossible to try and get any evidence there at all, even back at the time. You know, because there was a couple of days before the investigation actually ramped up. Productions on, meetings on, everything on, productions, all the whole thing. Now, our man Vance Loss also happens to have a long history of strange and worrying incidents, seemingly being in the wrong place at the very worst of times. Let me just say, once again, I reiterate, I'm not accusing him of anything. I'm not saying he did anything, but another way of putting it would be he's like the Forrest Gump, but for murders. And that's not only our case, there's plenty more. A couple of years after the Lewiston Civic Theatre incident, on July 27th, 1987, Vance Loss's girlfriend, a former nurse, Claudette Valiva, passed away by an overdose, and Vance was the one to find her. Usually that'd just be a very tragic, terribly dark and sad event. But again, with this guy, there's always like a little nugget of, that's odd, because she used to work as a seamstress for the Civic Theatre too.
Wow.
And that comes back to the theatre. Then there's the California mortuary incident, and this is really dark. At one point in 1972, when he was living in San Jose, California, Vance Loss was seen by a witness trying to break into the Willow Glen mortuary. When the police caught up with him, he was found in possession of a 12-inch knife, a flashlight, and a camera. When asked why he was at the mortuary, he told the police he was there to, quote, see his girlfriend. Inside the mortuary that day was the body of a 17-year-old girl named Antoinette Anino, who had tragically drowned and been found on a beach in Santa Cruz. She was not Vance's girlfriend, by the way, and in fact, looking into it, there was zero connection between the two of them. At all. So, despite somehow going equipped, locked and loaded, for something much worse, he was only ever charged with trespassing. Also, just to say real quick, there's a couple of other murders that have happened kind of nearby to him. He's always at a scene where murders just sort of happen. Like when he was growing up in Chicago, a young girl, 8-year-old Diane Taylor, she was brutally murdered in Chicago in 1963, and she lived in his same neighborhood.
Yeah, I'm convinced that we don't know how many people this motherfucker done murdered, y'all. This man has murdered a lot of people, man. That's what I'm convinced. Like, seriously, the more I think about it, I think he got a long record of murders on his book. You know what I'm saying? That we don't know about and probably would never know about. Because this dude just always around murdering, and always tie back to him. And every time you can connect it to some kind of way, he either at the theater, it's on the same route that he take going home and to the theater. You know what I'm saying? That all these people been found. And even going all the way back to his childhood, he potentially, you know what I'm saying, around murders and, you know what I'm saying, unsolved mysteries and shit. I ain't no telling how many people this man killed in his life.
This same man, Vancelos, is also a lot of people's pick for the Zodiac Killer. Now, he was in the Navy. Here's a picture of him. Sticks.
We was just talking about the fucking Zodiac Killer earlier, my brothers and sisters. And that's the crazy thing about the fucking Zodiac Killer. Boy, it's coming all full circle now. It's coming full circle. Because the Zodiac Killer, don't nobody know who the fuck it was. So it possibly could have been this damn man. They got a lot of fucking similarities. Wow.
Some specs on him is pretty similar. Oh wait, he did wear glasses! He joined the Navy and was discharged in 1968 in Oakland, California, near where the Zodiac murders happened. So, and it's believed the Zodiac also had a military background. Once he was discharged, our boy Vancelos was in a motorcycle accident, leaving him with a limp. The Zodiac had a limp. His sister worked in the San Francisco school district, and he was hanging out with his sister all the time, so he had a lot of excuses to go to San Francisco. He worked as a used car salesman, which means he had access to all different sorts of cars. He remained in California until 1975 when he moved to Idaho. And a few years later, the first murder/disappearance that we know of occurred. Now, having said all that, the authorities, they did come out and say they believe, they'd have identified the main person of interest in the Zodiac Killer case, Gary Post, which, was anybody else disappointed to find out that the Zodiac's possible real name was Gary? It's just, no offense to Gary's out there, it's just Gary. The police and families of the victims clearly think that they know exactly who they want held responsible.
The suspect can't be named because he has never been charged with the crime, but Nichols says he admits to being in the Civic Theater the night Stephen Pearsall disappeared and when the women were murdered. He also lived at the house where Christina White was last seen. Gloria Boberts, Christina Nelson's cousin, has spent years now looking into this suspect.
He always seems to be in where people have disappeared. He admits to being at the Lewiston Civic Theater.
After the murders in 1982, law enforcement began to look into this man's possible involvement.
Well, he initially gave a couple of interviews to law enforcement and then no longer wished to cooperate with law enforcement.
Detective Nichols says he then moved to the other side of the country, and even though he's thousands of miles away from Asotin County, she thinks about him every day.
I mean, I would definitely like to interview him, and I have since the day I started the case.
Many people ask, why hasn't he been charged?
You have to be able to prove everything, and in a case this cold, it becomes even more difficult because witnesses have left, passed away, forgotten.
But she's not discouraged, and she continues to follow leads.
And now I'm kind of at the point where I'm trying to collaborate with the Lewiston Police Department, and we've been working on going through the files and cleaning them up and looking at what we have.
Do you still feel like there's hope to solving these cases?
Yeah, it can happen. It can definitely happen. I mean, it could be tomorrow, it could be 20 years from now, but it could happen, and so as long as there's that possibility, I'll keep working on it.
And
I gotta say something real quick, real talk, y'all. I gotta play devil advocate real quick. The reason why they can't really charge him with no murder, you know what I'm saying? I get it. Because they don't really have no freaking evidence. The only thing they could go off of is that he's around when these people went missing. But there's no real physical evidence or nothing. You know what I'm saying? So, as much as I hate to agree with them not charging him, I think I gotta agree. If I'm just gonna play the other side for a second. You know what I'm saying? But let's go. Let's finish it up.
Detective Nichols' outlook gives the families hope.
So you might be wondering why, if everybody is so sure this guy, Vance Loss, is behind the Lewis Clark Valley murders, why hasn't he been, arrested? Why hasn't he been charged? Why are the police even not naming him publicly? They'll name him privately as their person of interest, but they won't name him publicly. And the answer to that is it's circumstantial. There's no direct evidence tying him to any of the murders. Maybe it will come up via DNA, who knows, but with all of the cases, it's so out there. It's so hard. I mean, the first one's a disappearance. The second one, she was in the river for a couple of days. The third one, they weren't discovered for over a year later. Two of the victims are still missing. He is currently living on the East Coast, a fair bit away. He could be a perfectly innocent guy, of course, but, it's just odd.
Odd.
And still to this day, the mysterious terror remains in the Lewis Clark Valley. The people that were Christina White, Kristen David, Christina Nelson, Brandy Miller, Stephen Pearsall are all remembered, are all memories. People still, these many years later, sit and miss them for a minute. But then a shadow hangs over all of them. That is the monster that got away. And that wraps up this whole video. Thank you so much for watching. This story is a very deep rabbit hole. I would highly recommend you look further into it if you're interested. It goes very, very deep. You can find out a whole heap about this case and other cases which are even more recent, linked to a person of interest. But I'll leave that up to you. Thank you so much for watching. It means the world to me that you're here. I'll see you in the next little video, which will be in a couple of days. I'm always posting nowadays. Oh, also, check out the That Chapter podcast for a whole heap of exclusive episodes, podcast-only episodes where me and my friend, we talk about, other serial killers, aliens, ghosts, spooky stuff. It's really, really a lot of fun. So give it a go if you sound like, if that sounds like your cup of tea. But until the next one, please take care of each other. Please take care of yourselves, because I love you. Mike out.
And we love you too, Mike, man. Great video, man. Great fucking video, y'all. But like he said at the end, y'all, it's like, and I was just saying it really ain't no freaking evidence to tie Vance Loss to those 5 murders. You know what I'm saying? But it's just messed up on so many levels, and the fact that 2 of the bodies was never found. Like, they just missing. That's it. They just missing. Now, it have been so many years, so we all can, I'm pretty sure they've been pronounced dead, even though we never found their bodies by now. But that's the hard thing, man. And another thing I was thinking about, y'all, it's 2023 and we have came a long way with like technology as far as DNA and all that. You know what I'm saying? It's way better than it was back in the 1980s. But I hope in the next 20, 40 years it get even better. And it is going to get better because, we just keep advancing as years go on as human beings. But I'm just hoping that it get to a point where all these cold cases can somehow, some way be solved. Like, we have the technology to solve all these cases, man. This is so sad that whoever did this got away with killing 5 people. That's the part that really messed me up. But then, if I'm gonna play devil advocate again, and we're gonna keep it real, my brothers and sisters, we really can't even say that it was one person who killed all 5 of these people. You get what I'm saying? It seems like it's tied together, especially with that Van Loss, whatever the freak his name is. But if you just keep it real, the only connection with the first girl, I think her name was Kristen, something like that. Rest in peace to her. But the only connection with that and the next lady, who I can't remember who her name was, who was riding, I think she was going to work or going home, but she was riding on the trail going somewhere. The only connection we got is them on a bike. We don't know if that was the same person that killed them, or that was the same person that actually killed those 3 people in the theater. You know what I'm saying? But that damn Vance Loss dude, he real freaking suspicious though. Because even outside of those 5 people, he got stuff going back to when he was a child. His damn girlfriend died kind of crazily, drowned. He probably the one who drowned her. And she used to work at the theater too. So I don't know, my brothers and sisters. I see why Mike said this one right here is a deep ass rabbit hole that'll have you going this way and that way and that way and this way. And the whole time you going that way and this way and that way and that way, you going deeper and deeper down the hole, man. I digress, my brothers and sisters. I'm finna go let y'all go, man. I appreciate y'all coming on back on another That Chapter Tuesday. Make sure you come back tomorrow. Cause I'm thinking we going back to our homegirl Anna Sauls. Y'all make sure y'all hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and do all that. And you know I gotta say this. Love, peace, and happiness. Stay safe. Don't stop. Keep going. Yeah.